Hello, and welcome to 10 for 10, 10th News, your weekly dose of 10th Amendment news in 10 minutes or so from us here at the 10th Amendment Center. Today is April 29th, 2013. My name is Michael Bolden, and thank you for tuning in. Today we'll talk about nullification bills moving forward in South Carolina, Tennessee, Missouri, and even California. Plus, you'll get an update on the death of CISPA. But first, this week's episode is made possible in part by the 10th Amendment Center membership program. Proudly wear your 10ther label with pride and become a card-carrying member of us here at the 10th Amendment Center. Your membership support every single month helps us continue the pressure. It helps us cover our base expenses and helps us reach new people through advertising and direct outreach. Get all the details and join us today at members.10thamendmentcenter.com. And now the news. In South Carolina last week, the State House gave preliminary approval to H. 3101, the so-called Obamacare nullification bill. If passed into law, the bill would authorize the state to interpose in protection of the people of the state against Obamacare. The bill reads in part, quote, "The General Assembly of South Carolina has the absolute and sovereign authority to interpose and refuse to enforce the provisions of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act of 2010 that exceed the authority of Congress." End quote. H. 3101 also takes direct aim at the Supreme Court, affirming the view that the several states have not only an interest, but a role in determining the constitutionality of acts of the federal government, including those of the courts. The bill continues, quote, "The judicial decision of the United States Supreme Court upholding the constitutionality of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act directly contravenes Article 1, Section 1 of the United States Constitution because, in upholding the law by re-characterizing the act as a tax, even though Congress specifically refused to identify it as a tax, the United States Supreme Court legislated new law in violation of Article 1, Section 1 of the United States Constitution." End quote. The vote in the South Carolina State House was 65 to 34 last Thursday. H. 3101 will now be scheduled for a third and final reading and vote in the coming days in the State House, which is more of a formality than anything. The bill is expected to pass there. It will then move to the State Senate for concurrence, where supporters are saying it's going to be a tough path to victory. South Carolina residents are encouraged to contact their state senators today to urge them to co-sponsor and support H. 3101. While South Carolina is making moves to nullify Obamacare head-on, other states are grappling with decisions that could pull the rug out from under the unconstitutional federal act, most notably whether or not to expand Medicaid. Rob Natelson is urging states to reject the expansion as, quote, "an important step towards more fiscal sanity and physical health," end quote. And the Cato Institute's Michael Cannon has an op-ed running in the Indianapolis Star right now, taking apart each of the arguments in favor of the expansion. He concludes by writing the following, quote, "The expansion would only worsen Medicaid's pre-existing conditions, which include fraud, abuse, poor access to care, crowded emergency rooms, inefficient care, high taxes, deficit spending, and dependence on government. No wonder supporters want to distract voters from how much the expansion would cost and how little it would help." End quote. Moving forward, on the right to keep and bear arms, it's states that are stepping up with a concrete line of defense, not the federal government. On the heels of Kansas signing into law a bill that would nullify a large number of federal gun control measures, the Missouri state legislature is on the verge of upping the ante. House Bill 436, the Second Amendment Preservation Act, already passed the state House by a wide veto-proof majority. It's being fast-tracked through the state Senate for concurrence, and a final vote is expected as early as today. If passed into law, HB 436 would nullify virtually every federal gun control measure on the books, or even those planned in the future. The bill reads in part, quote, "All federal acts, laws, orders, rules, and regulations, whether past, present, or future, which infringe on the people's right to keep and bear arms, as guaranteed by the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution and Article 1, Section 23 of the Missouri State Constitution, shall be invalid in this state, shall not be recognized by this state, shall be specifically rejected by this state, and shall be considered null and void and of no effect in this state." End quote. For more information and action steps you can take in support of this important legislation, go to 10thamendmentcenter.com/Missouri HB 436. Again, that's 10thamendmentcenter.com/Missouri HB 436. On the federal level, Joe Wolverton reports in the New American Magazine that CISPA, the Cyber Information Sharing and Protection Act, is reportedly dead, for now, as the Senate will not take the bill up for debate. Wolverton notes that although supporters of freedom should breathe a sigh of relief, they should also recognize that trouble is still on the horizon. He writes, quote, "Although CISPA seems unlikely to reach the Senate floor, it is almost certain that some sort of cybersecurity legislation will soon squeeze its way onto the agenda, especially in light of President Obama's insistence that the cyber threat is one of the most serious economic and national security challenges we face as a nation, and that America's economic prosperity in the 21st century will depend on cybersecurity." Wolverton continues, quote, "In this case, as with so many other federal programs that are steadily and stealthily chipping away at our civil liberties, that are the very foundation of our republic, the will in Washington is to place every aspect of the lives of every American under the close watch of the federal government. Accordingly, although it might be on the back burner for now, it is almost certain that CISPA or something like it will be revived with its many unconstitutional provisions altered, only just enough to garner majority support in Congress." End quote. While Congress continues to press forward with ways to spy on you online, there are legislators in a number of states working to ban warrantless spying by drones. Bills have been introduced in over 24 states now, and just last week, 2 were sent to governor's desk for a signature. Florida Governor Rick Scott signed Senate Bill 92 into law, and Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam is expected to sign a bill to severely restrict drone capabilities in his state as well. And even here in California, an anti-drone bill is moving forward, with a vote in the full state assembly expected soon. That's Assembly Bill 1327. AB 1327, introduced by Jeff Gorel, would require law enforcement agencies to obtain a warrant before using an unmanned aerial system to collect evidence relating to criminal activity. The bill was approved by the State Assembly's Public Safety Committee just last week, Tuesday. Among other safeguards, the bill would require law enforcement agencies to obtain a warrant based on probable cause before using a drone to collect evidence. Exceptions do exist and would include emergencies such as a hostage crisis, fire, hot pursuit of a suspected criminal, or search and rescue operations over land or water. It would, though, allow cities and counties to enact even more restrictive policies if they choose to do so. Gorel described the bill as, quote, "pretty restrictive." You can track the status of these and similar bills in states around the country at tracking.10thamendmentcenter.com/drones. Again, that's tracking.10thamendmentcenter.com/drones. And that covers our report here today on 10 for 10, 10th News. Get 10 minutes or so of 10th Amendment news every single week from us here at the 10th Amendment Center. Watch 10th News every week on youtube.com/10th Amendment Center. View archive shows at news.10thamendmentcenter.com. My name is Michael Bolden. Thanks again for tuning in.